They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But mine was served on a silver platter at Manhattan's most exclusive charity gala, wearing a catering uniform, with a tray of champagne in one hand and my husband's entire fortune in the other. My name is Elena Martinez, and 3 months ago, I was living what everyone thought was the perfect life. Penthouse overlooking Central Park, unlimited credit cards, a husband who was supposedly working late every night building his tech empire. But here's the thing about perfect lives, they're usually built on perfect lies. Before I tell you how I destroyed my cheating husband's world in one spectacular night, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And if you love a good revenge story, hit that subscribe button because trust me, you won't want to miss how this ends. It started 6 weeks before the gala, on a Tuesday that felt like any other Tuesday. My husband, Marcus Ashford, yes, that Marcus Ashford, the one on the cover of Forbes last year, had been spending more time at the office than usual. But that wasn't new. When you're running a cybersecurity firm worth $500 million, late nights come with the territory. Or so I thought. I was organizing our walk-in closet because that's what trophy wives do, right? When I found it, a receipt, crumpled in the pocket of his Tom Ford suit. The Peninsula Hotel. $847. Room service for 2, champagne, and a charge from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. on a day he told me he was in back-to-back board meetings. My hands started shaking. I sat down on the marble floor of our closet, surrounded by designer shoes and lies, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. Because confrontation gives them a chance to explain, to manipulate, to spin another story. No. I was going to investigate. I became someone I didn't recognize. I installed a tracking app on his phone, which, ironically, was easy because he'd made me memorize all his passwords for emergencies. I hired a private investigator named Tony, a retired cop with a face like a bulldog and a no-nonsense attitude. And I started documenting everything. The truth came fast and brutal. Her name was Sienna Crawford, 26 years old, an executive assistant at a rival tech firm. They'd been seeing each other for 8 months. 8 months! Tony's photographs were devastating. Marcus kissing her outside her Brooklyn apartment, holding her hand at out-of-the-way restaurants in New Jersey, checking into hotels under fake names. But here's what made me see red, the jewelry. In one photo, Sienna was wearing a diamond bracelet I'd admired at Tiffany's 6 months ago. Marcus had told me it was too flashy for me. Apparently, it was just flashy enough for his mistress. I could have divorced him, taken my settlement, walked away with my head held high. But as I sat in my lawyer's office, Marcus's former law school roommate, ironically, I learned something interesting. New York is an equitable distribution state, not a community property state. And Marcus, being the controlling genius he was, had made me sign a prenup 7 years ago that gave me almost nothing unless I could prove infidelity or financial misconduct. Can you prove it? My lawyer, Janet Park, asked, her sharp eyes assessing me. I slid Tony's folder across her desk. Infidelity, yes. But tell me about the financial misconduct part. Janet smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. That's harder. We'd need access to company records, evidence of hidden assets, proof he's moving money. That's when I remembered, the gala. Every year, Marcus's company, Ashford Security Solutions, hosted a charity gala at the Plaza Hotel. It was his night to shine, to network with investors and clients, to play the magnanimous philanthropist. And every year, I attended as his adoring wife in a designer gown, smiling for cameras. But this year, I had a different role in mind. What if I could get inside his office during the gala? I asked. What if I could access his computer? Janet leaned back in her chair. That would be illegal, Elena. I can't advise you to. I'm not asking you to advise me, I interrupted. I'm asking you what you'd need if, hypothetically, certain documents came into your possession. She studied me for a long moment, then wrote something on her legal pad and slid it across the desk. It was a list, offshore account records, internal communications about revenue hiding, evidence of corporate espionage, falsified investor reports. Hypothetically, she said, if someone were to find these things, they'd be very useful. Hypothetically. The plan came together piece by piece. Through Tony's connections, I learned that the catering company for the gala was hiring additional staff. They needed servers, bartenders, coat check attendants, all positions that required background checks but nothing too intensive. With a fake name, a wig, and some creative resume padding, Elena Martinez became Ellie Martin, available for event work. I got the job. For 2 weeks, I trained with the catering staff. I learned how to balance a tray of champagne flutes, how to disappear into the background, how to move through a crowd without being noticed. The other servers taught me the cardinal rule. Rich people don't look at the help. We're invisible. Ghosts in bow ties and black vests. Perfect. But getting into the gala wasn't enough. I needed access to Marcus's office on the 42nd floor of his building, just 2 blocks from the plaza. That required something special, his fingerprint and his access code. The fingerprint was easy. I lifted one from his whiskey glass using the technique Tony taught me, gelatin and a high-resolution scan. The access code took more work. I pretended my phone was dying and asked to check the Ring camera on his. While he showered, I accessed his password manager and found it, a file labeled Office Access with a 16-digit code. I was ready. The night of the gala arrived like Judgment Day. I left our penthouse at 3 p.m., telling Marcus I was going to my sister's place to get ready, a lie he believed because he wasn't paying attention anymore. Instead, I went to a budget hotel in Queens where I'd stashed my catering uniform, a backpack with my tools and a burner phone. I transformed myself. Brown contact lenses. Dark wig pulled into a severe bun. Minimal makeup. The black vest and white shirt of the catering uniform. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked like someone Marcus would never notice. Someone beneath his notice. The gala started at 7 p.m. I arrived with the rest of the catering crew at 5:30, helping set up bars and food stations in the plaza's grand ballroom. The room was breathtaking, crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, tables draped in ivory silk. Everything was excessive, over the top, emblematic of Marcus's need to prove he'd made it. And then he arrived at 6:45 p.m., fashionably early. He looked stunning in his custom tuxedo, his salt and pepper hair perfectly styled. His smile, that million-dollar smile that had made me fall in love with him a decade ago. He worked the room like a politician, shaking hands, laughing at jokes, playing the part of the humble success story. But he wasn't alone. She was there. Sienna. Not as his date, that would be too obvious, but as a representative from her firm. She wore a red dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders. And when Marcus thought no one was looking, his hand brushed against hers. A secret touch. A promise. I felt rage build in my chest like a physical thing, hot and sharp. But I channeled it, controlled it. I had work to do. At 8 p.m., I made my move. I told the catering supervisor I needed to use the restroom. Instead, I slipped out a service exit, crossed the street, and headed to Marcus's building. The night security guard, Randy, recognized me from the hundreds of times I'd visited Marcus for lunch or to drop off forgotten items. "Mrs. Ashford. Working late?" he asked, surprised. I smiled, thinking fast. Marcus forgot some documents for the gala. He asked me to grab them. You know how he is, forgets his head if it wasn't attached. Randy laughed and waved me through. I took the elevator to the 42nd floor, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. Marcus's office was silent, dark. I used his fingerprint replica on the biometric lock. It beeped green. I entered the code. The door clicked open. I was in. His computer sat on his massive mahogany desk like a sleeping dragon. I booted it up, used his master password, our wedding anniversary, ironically, and connected the external hard drive Tony had given me. The software he'd installed began automatically copying files. Emails, financial records, encrypted documents. While it worked, I searched his office. In his locked desk drawer, opened with a pic set from Amazon, I found bank statements for accounts I'd never heard of. Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Singapore. Millions of dollars hidden away. And then I found the real bombshell, a folder labeled Project Exodus. Inside were documents detailing how Marcus had been systematically stealing client data from his own company, planning to launch a competing firm with some investor friends, one of whom was Sienna's boss. They were going to gut Ashford Security Solutions, take the best clients and employees, and leave the company as an empty shell. The current investors would lose everything. It was fraud, corporate espionage against his own company. Enough to destroy him. I was so absorbed in the documents that I almost didn't hear it. The elevator ding in the hallway. Panic flooded through me. I grabbed the hard drive, still copying only at 87%, and shoved the folder into my backpack. The door to Marcus's office began to open. I dove behind his desk just as the lights flicked on. "I'm telling you, it's in my office." Marcus's voice. "We just need to grab the Silverman contract, and get back to the gala before anyone notices we're gone. You're paranoid. Sienna's voice playful. No one's paying attention. Through the gap under the desk, I saw their feet. His Italian leather shoes. Her Louboutin heels. They were standing close, too close. After tonight we'll be set, Marcus said. 6 more months of preparation, then we pull the plug on ASS and launch Apex Security. We'll be worth $1 billion in 2 years. What about Elena? Sienna asked. My breath caught. What about her? Marcus laughed. It was a cold sound, devoid of anything resembling love. She signed the prenup. She gets the penthouse and enough money to stay comfortable. She'll be fine. Hell, she'll probably be relieved. She hasn't been happy in years. I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. You're terrible, Sienna said, but she was laughing too. Then I heard something that made my stomach turn. The sound of kissing. In his office. In the space where I'd brought him lunch, where we'd celebrated his successes, where he'd promised me we were building a future together. I checked the hard drive, 93%. Come on. They broke apart. Let me grab the contract, Marcus said. Wait by the door. His footsteps came toward the desk. I pressed myself into the smallest ball I could, invisible in the shadows. He opened a file cabinet not 2 feet from where I was hiding. Papers rustled. And then his phone rang. Ashford. Yes, I'm grabbing it now. We'll be back in 5 minutes. He left the filing cabinet open and walked back to Sienna. We need to get back. Investors are looking for me. The moment the door closed behind them, I sprang into action. 96%. I couldn't wait any longer. I ejected the drive, shut down the computer, and ran. I made it back to the plaza by 8:45 p.m., slipping into the service corridor just as the catering supervisor was looking for me. Where have you been? She hissed. Sorry, stomach issues, I lied. I'm fine now. For the next hour, I served champagne and hors d'oeuvres, watching Marcus and Sienna pretend they barely knew each other. He gave a speech about innovation and giving back. The crowd applauded. People told me what an inspiration he was. If only they knew. At 10 p.m., I made one final move. I'd arranged for Janet to be at the gala. She had connections, got herself on the invite list as someone's +1. I passed her in the hallway near the restrooms and slipped her the hard drive and the folder. Everything we need, she whispered. Everything and more, I confirmed. She squeezed my hand. You've got this, Elena. I went back to the ballroom, back to being invisible Ellie Martin with a tray of champagne. But I wasn't invisible anymore. I was a bomb about to explode. The next morning, Marcus came home at 11 a.m., exhausted from the gala. I was sitting in our living room, dressed in jeans and a sweater, drinking coffee. Waiting. Hey, babe, he said, loosening his tie. Sorry I'm so late. After party went forever. How was your night with your sister? Illuminating, I said. He didn't catch the edge in my voice. That's good. I'm gonna grab a shower and... Marcus, we need to talk. Now he noticed. He turned to me, and I saw the exact moment he registered something was wrong. What's going on? I pulled out my phone and opened the photo album, copies of everything I'd found. I know about Sienna. I know about the offshore accounts. I know about Project Exodus. The color drained from his face. Elena, I can explain. Don't, I cut him off. Don't insult me with explanations. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign new divorce papers, no prenup, equitable distribution of everything, including your company's shares. You're going to give me the penthouse, the vacation home in the Hamptons, and half of every account, including the hidden ones. You can't prove any of. I held up a flash drive. I can prove all of it. And if you don't sign, I'm taking this evidence to your investors, your board, and the FBI. Corporate espionage, fraud, and theft from your own company? Marcus, you won't just lose your money. You'll lose your freedom. He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. You wouldn't. Try me. We sat there in silence, the ruins of our marriage between us. Finally he spoke, his voice barely a whisper. How did you? It doesn't matter how. What matters is what happens next. You have 2 choices. Sign the papers, resign quietly from your company, and disappear with enough money to start over somewhere else. Or I burn it all down and you go to prison. He signed. 3 weeks later, the divorce was finalized. I walked away with $247 million in assets, the penthouse, the Hamptons house, and my dignity. Marcus resigned from Ashford Security Solutions citing personal reasons. Project Exodus died in the shadows, and Sienna's firm mysteriously lost several major contracts. Turns out investors don't like being associated with fraudsters. As for me, I'm using my settlement to fund a nonprofit supporting women leaving abusive or deceitful relationships. Because here's what I learned. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just taking everything. It's taking everything and using it to make sure other women don't have to sneak into galas wearing disguises to get what they deserve. They should get it from the start. My name is Elena Martinez, and I took back my life one champagne flute at a time. If this story taught you anything, drop a comment below. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself in a relationship? How did you do it? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about people who refused to be victims and took control of their lives instead. Remember, you're worth more than someone else's lies. Don't forget that.